Here we go on our Monday edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. We went to our Football Insider subscribers and we asked them to send us yes or no and true and false questions. They came through in a big way. They sent us a bunch of questions. We're going to get to as many as we can. And we're going to start with this one from the 224 area code. Will the Browns be a top 5 offense? Just for a little context on Football Outsiders, through DVOA, the Browns actually finished 9th last year in offensive DVOA. Green Bay was 1st, Kansas City was 2nd, Tampa Bay was 3rd, Tennessee 4th, and Buffalo 5th. So, yes or no, will the Browns be a top 5 offense in 2021?
That's a really good question, because when you first started rattling off the first 3 teams, it's Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and I'm thinking, maybe not. But when you throw in the Titans and Ryan Tannehill, and you throw in the Bills, then you start to think, they could be right in there. So because they were 9th last year and they didn't even have Odell for most of the year, and it was Baker's first season, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I think they can do it. They've got so many weapons and they can be so explosive. And I think they're going to start a little bit quicker than they did last year. Maybe not the first game, but I think they can be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you can measure this. If we're going to go by DVOA, I think there's a real good chance, because that's about efficiency. And if you have your entire offense coming back, plus, again, you're adding in Odell, and you assume that they're going to focus on things that they did really well last season, it makes a lot of sense that they would get better. So in that sense, yeah. But by the way, PFF and team grades for PFF is kind of wacky, because they're looking at everybody individually and then kind of putting that all together. At least that's how I understand it. And they were 3rd on offense last season, just on PFF grading. But if you go by yardage, they're like middle of the pack. But they did have that, that horrible weather trio of games there where they didn't do so well. And then you had the Jets game. So even yardage wise, I think they could be a lot better than they were last season. So I'm going to say true that they can be a top 5 offense, just however you want to end up measuring it.
I'm going to say that they can. I'm not sure if they will. Is that fair? I think, first of all, we're going to see them throw the ball more, and I think that's part of it. So they'll be able to score with Green Bay, Kansas City. That's the other thing. Are you talking yardage, scoring, DVOA? There's so many different ways to look at it, like you mentioned, Scott. I think they are going to, I'm going to just say yes. Forget it. I'm going to stop towing the line. I'm just going to say yes, that I think the Browns can be a top 5 offense, because I kind of look at the teams here in front of them, again, just on the DVOA list. So Minnesota was 8th, New Orleans was 7th, Seattle was 6th. You got to think New Orleans is going to take a step back. Minnesota, who knows with them? Seattle, should be good offensively, but they always have the identity issues every single year. I think the Browns can sneak up there depending on what like Josh Allen does and, how Ryan Tannehill looks. I think they can certainly sneak into that top 5 group. So, you know what? I'll just say yes, they can be a top 5 offense. This one from the 614 area code. Considering the turnover on the defense, true or false, a starting member of the Browns defense is not yet on the roster. That actually comes from Patrick. So true or false, a starting member of the Browns defense is not on the roster.
Oh, you know what? It's a trick question. It is a trick question.
Ooh,
because yes, it's a trick question, because if Sheldon Richardson comes back, he could start. I mean, there's a chance that you would throw him out there against the Kansas City Chiefs next to Malik Jackson. I mean, that wouldn't be that horrible of a twosome, right? So this is a tricky question, because he's still kind of floating around out there. And I don't think they would mind having him back. So which one am I supposed to answer if I feel that way?
So you're saying true. You're saying true, that there's a starter who's not on the roster yet.
Okay.
That's clearly the spot you'd have to target, is somebody at defensive tackle, whether it's Sheldon Richardson or anybody. You know, right now I'm going to say it's false, just because everything seems to be pointing at they're going into the season with this group. I mean, they added a lot of people in the middle of that defensive line, and to me that says we don't think Sheldon Rich is coming back, and we need to take as many swings at getting the right combo in here as we can. So let's get a bunch of guys in here and see what we can piece together. So I'm going to say false.
I'm going to go with Scott on this one. I'm going to say false. I think we're seeing all the starters on the roster right now. I don't know that we're going to see. I think our texter is probably thinking, would they go out and sign another corner, like a veteran corner, or make a trade for a veteran corner? I think maybe that's where our texter is going with this. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, Todd in Bay Village. Baker Mayfield saw a UFO. Todd in Bay Village wants to know, are aliens real? Hey, look, it's crazy to think we're the only people in the universe, right? There's got to be somebody out there somewhere besides us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Team Baker on this one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Now, they were driving home from their dinner that night when they saw this UFO, and I at one point tweeted, "I'll have what they're having." But yeah, I mean, now we are going to start to hear more and more about this, because you know, the government is starting to release information and photos, and yeah, we might have way more to talk about on this podcast than we even realized this year, right? I mean, you just never know what could happen at First Energy Stadium if there are UFOs flying around. So I'm going to say yes. I'm a believer.
Unidentified flying objects are real until they're identified. So that's what I'm going to say.